Welcome back to another edition of the Gabagools podcast. I'm your host, Jeff. With me today, as always, the Cuzzo Dan, episode 18. How we feeling?
18, man. Lovely today. Lovely, lovely. Slept in today, which was much needed. Um, I am ready to go. But yeah, we usually start off again, right? We can't, can't forget about the weather, right? I know this is episode 18, but we got it. We got to mention it, right? So we
Yeah, it's
look
kind of like a
outside.
ritual here.
It's a ritual, you know. They call me. What do they call me? What's the guy's name? Skilling.
We got Daniel Skilling over here.
There I am. That's my name. Um, The sun's starting to peak out a bit today. It's not going to be as hot as it's been this last week, so that's obviously a nice thing, right? We've been in the midst of that heat wave here. I think this next week is supposed to be another hot one, so prepare yourself. But today's not too bad.
Yeah, it's. Did you guys get a lot of storms by you too last night, or no?
It did rain. Yeah, it started raining late. I don't know if it was 10 or 9, 10, 11, somewhere in there. But yeah, it was definitely coming down late last night. You guys too?
Oh yeah, storm. It was crazy.
Hmm.
Well, it wouldn't be us if we didn't bring up one of our last points from last week's show, the homework that I set for you for the water boy. So I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, you wanted me to figure out what the NFL water boy does, and me being the good student that I am, I I got a couple little points for you. It's quick, it's brief, but the NFL water boy or water girl,
Yeah, I was gonna say
got to put
let's
that in
not
there
be
too.
judgmental here.
Yes, it's not just Bobby Boucher. It's all the other ones out there.
Booby Boucher,
Could
right?
be Booby, right? Bobby and Booby.
Bobby and Booby, or Roberta, Robert,
Could be any of those.
yeah,
Could be Gladys. Don't know.
Gladys. Yeah, no, she's behind the little window at the doctor's office. Do you remember that when you'd go in there? I know we're off the rails already, but when you'd go to the doctor's office in like early 2000s, late 90s, whatever, and you'd go, it'd be like a single room. You got chairs on each side. Everyone looks miserable because nobody likes being at the doctor. Plus, it takes forever. 45 minutes to sit in the lobby, 45 minutes waiting for the doctor, and then, hours of pain. Anyway, yeah, usually their names were Gladys, and they're old curmudgeony old woman sitting
Yeah.
behind the glass, sign this paperwork, cold as all can be. I remember that was actually a part of like a training we had at when I worked at the hospital. Don't be a Gladys because it was that cold woman. You want to be warm and welcoming because hospital. Nobody wants to be at the hospital. Nobody wants to be at the doctor's office. So yeah,
So was Gladys a precursor to a Karen?
yeah,
Is that what you're
yeah,
trying to say?
yeah. It's funny. It's funny you mentioned that too, because like that's a precursor, and it was funny because we're rewatching Family Guy right now, and Peter talks about being a simp for TV, and I had to laugh because like this is just me getting aged out of lingo that like years ago that you're a simp or whatever for whatever whatever the topic is, and I was like, okay, that doesn't make any sense. But then after doing research and stuff, I said to laugh that a show from like 1998 started like the whole simp thing. So I'm just glad that it was around. It wasn't just Gen Z bullshit. But all right, back on the rails. Give me the water boy
We're
girl.
back on water boy or water girl in the NFL. Main jobs. Oh, you might have just muted yourself there. There we go.
I did, yeah.
Um, Main functions. Keep players hydrated. Now that's a given, right? That's a given.
Yeah, we kind of knew that. Yeah.
Keep the water bottles filled. Now that's an important one. They don't they don't tell you about that, but that's part of the job, right? It's not just running on the field and giving them a quick hey 1 2, right? It's you got to make sure there's something in the bottle, right? You're not just squirting air in
Right.
their mouth. Um, and this I found interesting. Most excuse me, the trainers, these are basically trainers on the athletic staff. So
Yeah,
they're not just, just someone coming off the street, be like, oh yeah, I'll do this for you this week.
that's
And
what I figured.
Yeah, well, you know what? Someone like me, I had no idea.
Yeah.
And most of them have athletic training degrees or physical therapy, and they're learning how to treat injuries and keep them healthy. So that right there, in a nutshell, is your NFL water boy or water girl.
And those, it was a burning a hole in my pocket. For anybody that was wondering, I was waiting. We're filming earlier, a day earlier than we normally do.
Yeah.
So 5 days, 6 days. It was, I was waiting. So I'm
Oh,
glad.
it was eating at me. I mean, I didn't know what the heck they did. I mean, you read up a little bit on them, and you see, okay, they're part of the staff. They've got degrees and all that, but do you really see the degrees in action when they're out there? I mean, I'm just saying, when they're out there, you see them run out, quick squirt, get a little hydration. To be honest with you, I don't even see them fill up the bottle. So I don't even know that. I might have to.
I don't think they get that much camera time. If we
Yeah,
did, then we'd have a problem. I mean, people complained about Taylor Swift getting too much camera time. Can you
I'd
imagine if they
like to
did it
see
for
that
everybody
though.
else?
Personally, I'd like to see it. And T Swift, way too much. I mean,
I don't think it's that much. I don't think it makes that big of a difference, to be
you see what I'm
honest.
doing here? This is turning down the dial. We're turning that down. She's been on like a 20 and it only goes up to 10. We're turning that way down to like a 2. But yeah, yeah, and apparently they get paid. This was, I think, from a couple years ago, but
Yeah,
the average salary is like 53,000. So, and you get to travel with the team and do other stuff like that. So,
it's not really that much.
no, it's not much for some of those degrees they have, but
Yeah, I was going to say it's like a close to a 6 year degree, so if not more.
yeah, you get to travel with the team and you get to squirt water into some of your favorite players' mouths. So I don't know. You look at it like that, I guess, right?
Yep. Well, now we know. The more you know.
Yeah. Was that Bill Nye or was that
I don't know if it was Bill Nye, but I know it was like a commercial, and this is funny because going back to do you remember 2020 when we were like when baseball like kind of just was kicking back off?
yeah.
So there was a commercial, and it was like the more you know commercial, and it had like a little star. Well, I think because like nobody was filming any new commercials, they could only rewind like a certain amount. So, and they had this app through Comcast at the time too, because I think they were still Comcast before Xfinity officially took them over or the name change, whatever. They ended up having like the more you know after every little commercial break. So you'd have four of the same commercials, and then you'd have a more you know, like the more you know. Well, I don't know if they had like a broadcast break or like a rain delay. Well, they had it on repeat nonstop. So all it was the more you know, and it was just like these people who got like F list actors going in there, getting their first gig, and just giving a random fact. It was a wild time. The more you know.
The more you know, right? I mean that sounds like something that we saw in like elementary school. That sounds like
It
that
was
the more you
definitely
know.
something too. It was
What
like another one that was like facts, but
it was
yeah,
something that it was in one of those like educational videos, and you'd see that, and it reminds me. I don't know if it's the same thing, but it'd be like, no, no, it's not the same thing. But the Bill Nye thing was, it'd be like some guy would come out and like after he had the video, they'd want to test what you know, and the guy would be like, "Did you know that?" And then they'd say the fact like, and then at the end they'd be like, "Now you know." I don't know if you remember that, but that's what I remember from
I
what you just said.
don't, but I remember that. Like I remember that. I wasn't as studious as you apparently.
Bill Nye,
The,
those videos were
the,
good. I was not a science guy, but those videos were like whenever we were watching a Bill Nye video, I was locked in.
Dan the rogue scholars we're gonna call him. You're just getting more and more nicknames by the week. So
Dan, the rogue science man.
yep. Anyway, let's get on to sports current day. So we have to do a nice little round of applause for the Boston Celtics getting their 18th World Championship. Not a
Yeah,
big deal. That was a I don't even have words for it. It was just kind of an ass kicking series. I mean,
uneventful.
Dallas made it a little bit competitive, but big picture, Boston was winning it from the beginning. I think we kind of both knew from the start that was always a possibility. So you never know. You never know with these series.
I think it was. more about the role players or the after the one and the two option, right? We mentioned that Boston was deeper, and I mean I don't know if I picked Dallas to win or if I just wanted them to win,
You did.
but
You picked them.
there you go, thank you. But um, Boston was, yeah, they were the better team. They were, I mean, obviously they had, four, five, six guys out there who could get you a bucket at any time, and they played solid defense too. So, good for them. Yeah, like you said, 18 championships. I think now they're number one, right? They were tied with the Lakers.
Yeah, and the Lakers, in my opinion, are just far out. Like I don't
Oh,
see
they're
them.
nowhere near where Boston is right now. Boston could continue to contend for, you'd assume, in the next couple of years. I think they said Derek White, isn't he coming up for a contract?
I think so. So they'll have to give him. They'll have to pay him
Gonna
next.
have to
So
pay
we'll
him,
see.
and he played well, so he's up for some serious coin. Um,
Yep.
be interesting to see if they pay him. I mean, you can't pay everybody in the NBA, right? I mean,
I guess not. I mean, the new CBA is going to make things interesting for this free agency too. But that being said, do you think you could say that this is kind of a start of a dynasty for Boston, given that they do have their two big stars, and I don't know how long the Unicorns signed for as well. But would you say that that's kind of like where we're sitting with?
especially with their head coach too. That this Missoula, however
He's
you say it,
great.
yeah, he looks like he knows what he's doing. I mean, very cerebral. Guy remembers everything that happened in the entire game. So, um, he's interesting, younger guy. And yeah, you've got Tatum and Brown for the next few years. So with the way those two are playing, and then like you said with the unicorn, I don't know what the deal is with Porzingis, how much longer they have him for. But you're also going to need him to somehow be able to stay on the court. They obviously won it without him, but
Right.
you know, every year is different. So this next year, you're going to have teams in the East that are going to be a little bit better. And you're going to have some of these teams in the West that had kind of broke out this year with OKC and Minnesota with some of those younger
Yeah.
superstars that we're seeing kind of emerge. So those teams I almost expect to be a little bit better next year too. So um, a
I
dynasty, we'll see. But yeah, I mean they're going to be, especially in the East, they're going to be definitely the favorites yet again this next year. And there's no reason they probably shouldn't win the East and have a decent enough chance to at least get back to the finals, right?
Yeah, and Kristaps is signed up, or so he's got one more year left, and he's an unrestricted free agent in 2026 to 27. So this is their years to win. They would have to go back to back to kind of be in that discussion. But the reason I even bring it up is because if you look at their track record last season, they lost in the Eastern Conference Finals. 2021 to 20, or yeah, in 2021 they lost in the finals. They had that blip in the 2020 season, first round exit. Who gives a shit? Um, Eastern Conference Finals in 2019 2020. They lost in the semis in 2018. 2016 and 2017, they also made the Eastern Conference Finals. So, I mean, it's just like we have to give appreciation to what Brad Stevens has brought to the table and like just amazing. Like, since he's been there, and we could go back to his Butler career too, and what an impact he made in the young time, because he's not an old guy. Like when you think of the like Pat Riley, who was killing it in what the I don't want to say 50s, but like the 60s. He made his track record, and that's really kind of the comparison I could make. The difference is that Brad Stevens wasn't a player like Pat Riley, for instance. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're absolutely, you definitely hit the nail with that one. I mean, Stevens has been, I was going to say his coaching days with the Celtics, and then he moved up. But yeah, he was a good coach with Butler too,
Yeah.
and got them in the. They didn't win with him, but right, but they
They
they they
didn't
got to
win. They
that.
made back to back NCAA tournament finals, and one of them came down to
Nuts.
Gordon Hayward's shot. That's the big one. And the following year was probably the worst offensive game I can remember to date, where it was like the Husky, like UConn won. They beat them in the finals, I think 2011, and it was just like a poorly offensively shot game. Just I think the final score was under 60 total. So it was an ugly game.
Yeah, but he's one of those masterminds, right? He's been. I mean, he wasn't able to win as a coach with either Butler or the Celtics, but as you said, I mean, yeah, he was able to get them to the
As the
playoffs, and not
executive.
only yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean, it's. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what he sees. I don't know what they've, I don't know what he sees compared to what other people see. But and we mentioned it too. They're the last couple draft picks they've had, especially when they had Brown and Tatum back to back years. I mean, they had the third pick in both of those drafts, right? So you're telling me, you could say Philly's got that curse. I think the Lakers were up there too. I mean, those teams both picked the wrong guys. Obviously, it's tough to have a crystal ball and go back, but to me, I mean, especially that the Tatum year, I didn't know much about Jaylen Brown when he was coming out. For me, I would have taken
Yeah.
Tatum one. I don't know. I don't know. I think that was Markel Fultz and Lonzo Ball. I think that was that year. And
Trust the process. That was the process. Ben Simmons and Embiid and all those guys. Embiid's great, but still.
yeah. But he's
And then
also hurt
Lonzo
every
Ball.
year.
Yeah, Lonzo Ball. They dropped the ball on that one. I think they took Brandon Ingram, and most of those guys aren't even close to like being competitive basketball players outside of. I don't know, just those. Everyone else kind of like got traded or barely can get on the court.
But I mean, when's the last time you saw a team 2 years in a row, back to back years, draft that high level caliber of guys, and now fast forward to a couple years later, you make the playoffs, you get deep every year, and now you get the monkey off your back and you win. I mean, that's like you said. Kudos to them. Stevens, he's a mastermind. I don't know what he's a genius. Whatever he's doing, and they've got other people up there too. But I mean, it's got to be the best run organization in the NBA.
Yeah, I mean that's just Boston sports. They've ended up having pretty good luck. If you go back, that City of Champions, I think they've had like 17 championships since like 2000. So
Yeah, it's so crazy though with them and the Lakers having like the same amount. I think Boston just took them now, but for them, I mean, you look at the history of both of them, and then you look at the current state of both of those franchises, and they couldn't be further apart.
right, but speaking of the Lakers, now that you touched on it too, is that JJ Redick's the new coach, as we kind of expected to happen. That got announced, I think, Monday or Tuesday. So, how do you feel about JJ Redick? Do you think he's going to make a difference, or do you think this is just a PR stunt from to
Well,
keep
see,
well, not to keep LeBron per se, but more so just to be like, okay, we have a pod. They had the podcast. Let's see what trans.
well, see, I was almost going to throw it to you to start, but for JJ, I mean, for me, he doesn't have any coaching experience. Did he play in the NBA? Yeah, he played for a while, but to quote the late Jerry West, what did he do in his career? He averaged like 12 points a game or whatever. Is he a smart guy? Sure. He's been around some really smart people. Obviously, went to Duke for I think all 4 years. So um, he's he's a smart guy, but just because you do a podcast with LeBron James doesn't make you the next head coach, in my opinion. You know what? The Lakers went the Hurley route. They tried to go for him. They weren't able to
Yep.
get him. Um, I don't know if they came out with how much they were trying to pay him. I thought it was
Yeah.
not. I didn't think they were trying to make him like the highest paid. And I mean, if they were, maybe he'd be a Laker right now. But um,
Yeah.
what do I think of Redick? We'll see. I mean, I know the Lakers. I know they have some players over there. Sure, I'd have to look at their roster more. But do I think he's going to make much of a difference? I personally I don't, and I also think the West is obviously more stacked than the East, and we've seen a couple guys with SGA on OKC and Ant Man on Minnesota, and you still have Denver. and you're going to have a couple other teams in the West that are going to be really good too. So I think it's a tougher conference over there, and I
Oh
think
yeah.
that
Oh, no doubt in my mind.
and then you've got what are you really going to get all season from AD? And then LeBron obviously is going to be great, but he's also like 40. So every year when you're getting right, you're getting a little bit older. So what is he going to really, you know? I'm sure he's still going to be LeBron at the end of the day, but the guy's also pretty much like what is he, 38, 39, 40, and then like I
Yeah.
said with AD, what are you going to get from him? So
If he plays 76 games like he did this year, good chance at least to be productive. But like, that was kind of like the story of the playoffs too, was the injuries, and I think that's what kind of takes away from Boston's championship. It's like people will criticize always, Tatum and Brown and just the Celtics because the whole East was hurt. I mean, I think Embiid even went on what was it, the NBA pregame show and said like, I was hurt, and then you got Jalen Brunson, he was hurt, and Giannis, he was hurt. I mean, the countless injuries. I wish the Bulls could make that excuse, but be it as it may, they're just a terrible run organization. As we see, they just made that trade of Caruso for Giddy. Straight up. No picks, no nothing. Just Giddy was
no,
on his way out of the fucking OKC. Like that's one. He was on their way out. Like that was the thing is he was on his way out because he lost his role because SGA ended up going off and becoming that elite point guard and kind of being that face of the franchise. And Giddy was highly drafted, so I mean, is there still time for him to turn around? Sure. I don't think he's that good of a player, to be honest. I think they overdrafted him. Uh, all the highlights I've ever seen, he's turning the ball over. He can't shoot, can't defend. So basically, we have a glorified passer on there. So I don't want to see any comps to Kirk Heinrich. I don't want to see that because Kirk could actually score the ball. He carried a lot of those, teams when he needed to with Ben Gordon. I don't know what the hell the Bulls are doing.
nobody does. When you said that to me the other day, I was like, "You've got to be fucking kidding me!" I had to, I had to throw one in there since you just threw one in there. Um, it's upsetting. Caruso has been one of my favorite Bulls the last couple of years that we've had him. He can D up, he D's up your best scorer on the other side. So um, he's he's just a gritty, hard nosed guy. I mean, he'll make you some shots, he'll score you some points, but he's really gonna, a lot of the things he does don't always, add up in the score sheet. But you when you watch the game, you're like, man, like if we didn't have Caruso
He's
tonight, we don't win the game.
Yeah, Caruso has always been one of my favorite players too because he makes that impact on the court and he defends. I'm a big guy that like defense wins championships, and I'd like to see more on the defensive side of the court. Where you can D up a guy because that's what's going to lead to more points down the road too. Is when you D someone up, they're going to get tired for one because they're busting their ass on the offensive side of the court, so they're going to let up on defense. But uh, yeah, don't know what I mean. I guess what the upside here is that he's younger, so you could do that. But I mean, the trade rumors, Levine, the Bulls can't move. DeMar might be on his way out. Lonzo, they might even cut. I saw a rumor that they might cut him. Um, I don't know. Lots of ums in that one. That's it's one of the most perplexed. Like uh, the Sox, at least for instance, comparing the two Jerry teams, their double A pitching staff has been incredible, which I'll touch on later.
And you keep
But
talking about this double A pitching staff here, like
they're pretty good. I'll have to
hang on, let
put
me
it on.
just move in really quick before you move on to your next point, so you can see this eye roll.
Yeah, but back to the Bulls.
Go ahead.
You just there's no direction. It's like almost like AK did so well with Denver, and I don't know what he's doing here. I mean, they didn't make a trade for 2 years. Their last trade was Vooch, I think. I think that was the last trade that they made outside of Giddy now.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought him up because yeah, we brought him over and like you're like, okay, this is like get
Underwhelming.
ready. get ready because the Bulls are going to take off, and it has not happened. And
Yeah, and like I love Kobe White. He went to North Carolina, so like I appreciate him breaking out this year. But I'm sorry, he's not this top 10 player that we need to build around. He is a great role player, and he could end up being a number 3 option on a team. But Levine not out there. Vooch, I don't know what the hell he's doing. I like DeMar. I won't say anything bad about DeMar, but
I like Vooch. I don't know why he's not been the same guy that he was on Orlando because he was an all-star with the Magic, and he's not been the same guy with us. He has a good game. I don't know if that's because we're trying to battle between everyone to get their touches and everything, but Vooch is and he's a guy. I like Vooch a lot. I the last 2 years. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know why he hasn't been as consistent or as dominant with us, but he's a good player and he's got good moves down low for a big guy and he can shoot. You'd think that that's an easy 20, 25, maybe even 30 a night, and you don't always get that from him. And then he's not as big and you know to not to reference Charles Barkley, but when a guy's banging you, something like that, he's not one of
yeah,
those guys who's going to bang down low as much to get boards and stuff like that. So he's more of the nuanced kind of big man who can shoot. He's very skilled offensively, maybe not as poignant or whatever on the defensive end, but again, I like Vooch. I don't think we've used him the right way. I don't know why he hasn't
no.
been.
That falls on Billy Donovan then.
And I was excited when we brought
So
Billy
was I.
over because I thought he did really good with OKC. And again, maybe it's just the franchise. Maybe it's just I don't know what it is. But you're right, Levine. He's been hurt. We way overpaid for him, and nobody wants to pay him that when he's a great player, but he's been hurt. The Lonzo one is probably going to be the worst one because if you're talking about cutting him, I mean, he was a guy a couple of years ago you could at least trade for and you could probably get something for. Being that, paying someone and then having to cut him for nothing is the worst thing you can do. So if that happens, I mean, say what you will, but you're not going to get anything for him. You don't know what you could get for Levine and DeRozan. I love DeRozan too, but he's getting older, and I'm sure
Yeah,
he's
he's
thinking
getting
like,
older.
"Get me the fuck out of Chicago," because that's a third f bomb for the pod. But
Yep.
who the hell would want to come to play for the Bulls
Right.
with this
Yeah, I mean, I guess they
situation?
have a player. I mean, because for going back to Lonzo, he has a player option which he picked up. So I mean, what they'll have to do is they could cut him. I don't know what the breakdown would be if they did, but they gave him a player option. I just think it's funny. You signed him to that huge deal, so he's making $20+ million a year sitting on the bench. So I don't know. That's another team that Jerry owns that just keeps going down the toilet bowl. But we'll go on that tangent later. But on more important notice, anything else from the NBA? Nothing really happened signing wise. Oh, actually, I do have a. Do you think Clay Thompson leaves? Okay, or Golden State?
That's an interesting one. I don't know. I don't really know where Golden State is. That's another team too. I mean, you still have obviously Chef Curry. You've got, I mean, Draymond. To be honest with you, I think he's just trying to fight everybody. So I mean, what are you going to do with him? He's another one you probably almost, good defender, but and
Yeah.
he like 4 or 5 years ago, he would at least score you some points. He doesn't
Right.
score anything anymore. I mean, he finishes games with a big old goose egg. Jeff, you and I, if we got 4 or 5 minutes, if we were able to take a couple of shots, we could maybe hit a shot, man. This guy doesn't even, I mean, he might be taking a couple of shots and just missing. I don't know really what happened there. He like can't score the basketball anymore. But he's an interesting one. Getting back to Clay, He's been hurt, right, the last couple years, and I know he came back this year. He played some this year. I don't know
He
how
came off
much he
the
played.
bench near the end of the year too. Like they were kind of done with him. I think it's just writing on the wall. I don't know if he's just done with the team and he wants to stop being in the limelight. But like, where does he go? I mean, maybe I mean, someone's gonna sign him, but maybe Dallas, where he just sits there and just shoots threes again. Uh, I mean, I don't know. I think the I think the NBA is going to really turn on its head this year, where we're going to see some players move off of teams that they were on, and just like Paul George, I see him going to either New York or Philly, so he'll end up with a new team as well. But I think they should break up. I think the dynasty is done for Golden State. Steph can't do it on his own. He needs a number two, and Clay's not that, and they don't really have one that could stand up and do it. So, I guess we'll see. NBA free agency is going to start kicking off soon. So,
And what was Clay getting paid these last couple of years? He was making some coin, right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, he was a big focal point on that team. So, like, give me a second to pull it up, but that's one of the things too is that
And
he should, he deserved it. So like we can't really
no,
harp on the fact that he got paid, but uh, you know he was getting paid close to 45 million a year. Yeah, this past year he made 43,000, not including like bonuses.
not including bonuses. I mean, I'm sure he didn't
Yeah, it
get
was
any
closer
of
to
the
45, closer to 45. But yeah, this year's cap hit was 43.
claim. Hit a brother up, man. I could use some of that 45, dude.
I mean, was he ever a good defender? I don't remember him being that good of a defender.
45 million. Well, you know what? Let me just go ahead and say this. He's not going to be on the Warriors next year, especially with what you just said. And if they are going to get that much cap space, if not more, to use, they could go out and sign a big time player.
Oh yeah, they could get somebody else in there. I'd like to see him. It'd be really funny though if like for whatever reason the Lakers didn't sign LeBron and LeBron just is like, "Hey, Clay, or not Clay, hey hey Steph,
Steph,
you want to try to win one last one?" Because there was a lot of speculation with that this year in general that LeBron would leave and go play with Golden State, but a lot of these teams, we'll see, these stars aren't going to want to stay. So, um, I guess that would be an interesting team that I could see LeBron kind of fishing for Clay, be like, "Hey Clay, go take a discount, come play with me."
that would be almost too weird if LeBron went to Golden State because they had their rivalry a couple of years back when LeBron was back in Cleveland. So
Right.
um, that would be wild.
It would be fun. It would be fun for the NBA. But
Yeah.
moving on to more important things, the NHL Stanley Cup. We got Game 7 tomorrow night. As I think the last podcast, the Oilers were down 3-1, and they fought their way back. They kicked ass the last couple games, and
Wow.
now we have a Game 7. So, just going back in history, some of the notable 3-1 deficits that have happened. Obviously, 2016 Cavs with LeBron that we just were talking about with
Hmm.
against Golden State Warriors. 2016 Cubs, they came back 3-1 against the Indians at the time.
Glad you
Flaming.
threw that in there.
Yep, of course. And then the other big one that happened too was the 2004 Boston Red Sox. They were down 3-0 to the Yankees. This could be one of the greatest NHL in history comebacks, going down 3-0 in the Stanley
Yeah.
Cup, coming back and winning. So,
Has it ever
uh,
happened in hockey? Has anyone
not
ever
to
been
my
down?
knowledge, not to my knowledge that I've ever seen. But it would be huge if it ever
Yeah.
did. Um, just talking about McDavid, he's breaking records like this entire series. Like he came back after like the first 3 games where nobody did anything. He came back and was like a man on fire, just lighting up the stat sheet, which has been great.
So
But
who do you have then? Game
I got
seven.
the Oilers. I've
Yeah.
had the Oilers the whole time. I cashed out my bet after they won just so I could make some money back.
That I mean, Game 7 back in Florida, right? And that's going
Yep.
to be they won three in a row. Now you've lost three in a row, and now you're on your home ice, whatever you want to call it. I mean,
Yeah, it's not pretty. So I guess let's see here. How many 3-0 comebacks have there been in the NHL? So just four teams have successfully battled back down 3-0 to, and just a playoff series, not like the Stanley Cup. So we had 1942 Maple Leafs, 1975 Islanders, 2010 Flyers, and then the 2014 Kings.
hmm, okay, so
So
it's happened. It's happened, and all those teams came back and won series.
yes, won the series. Yeah,
Wow, so it's happened four times.
yeah, not in the Stanley Cup though. The
Right.
Stanley Cup was on. Well, actually, Stanley Cup Finals was 1942. So the Maple Leafs. I think that's no, they won in the 60s. I was gonna say that might be the last time they've won Stanley Cup. But yeah, so it's gonna be fun to watch. Pretty excited because that's history on the line. So one of them that you might want to tune into as well.
I think I have to. Game 7, and
Game seven.
the Panthers were up. I mean, and they haven't won, right? You said they've never
Yeah.
won in their franchise history, so now they're getting ready to choke it away at home. I mean,
Well,
they've
they
got no
they
momentum.
made they made the Stanley Cup last year and they lost too. They lost to Vegas, so it's the first one in franchise history, and then Edmonton's looking for their first since 1990. So,
Yeah, you know what though? First since 1990 means you've at least won a couple, or at least one.
oh yeah, Oilers have a
Panthers,
history. Yeah,
Panthers. I mean, I don't know what the series was at for them last year when they lost to Vegas, but this year you'd be going up three games. You can't, you can't script that. I mean, that's unbelievable.
yeah, that's like some Cubs level bullshit right there. So,
Hey,
um,
2016, baby.
yeah. Moving into the MLB, this week we lost Willie Mays, one of the greatest players to ever do it. I would argue just across the board, defensively, offensively, he was one of the best. Hall of Famer, played through how many years did he play in the MLB? He played 23 years. In 2 years, he did. I think it was close to 2 years. He didn't play because he was drafted to go fight in a war. Uh, so sad to see. One of the staples and got it. You could argue is on the Mount Rushmore of MLB players just because defensively, offensively, he did everything. He's got MVPs, he's got everything you kind of want. He won the 1954 World Series as well, and he won Rookie of the Year. So you're prototypical. If you want a Hall of Famer and a resume, he was there for it.
Obviously, we didn't get to see him play. We've just seen, maybe a couple of highlights here and there. Mainly that great catch he had at the Polo Grounds way back in the day. That was like 450, 500 feet or whatever. But um, he, I was thinking about this the other day. When you go through like the MLB's history to all 30 teams, and you start looking at the best Hall of Famers on every
Yeah,
single team, he is on top of just about every single. I mean, there are not many, if any, who's really on top of him, or really even in the same breath of air that you could talk about for him. I mean, the the stats are staggering, right? I mean, you career 301 average, 660 career homers, 3293 on the career hits. I mean, you want a more nuanced stat, 156 career WAR, which
yep,
is wild. Had 339 stolen bases, so he'd steal you some bags. Um,
yeah,
I mean, yeah, yeah. He's there. There's what can't you say about Willie? He was unbelievable, obviously.
yeah, yeah. He'll be missed, and it was that's a staple that the Giants had for a long time too. So moving on to current state of baseball, some news. Carlos Sanchez signed that 4-year deal with the Phillies. He's having a lights out season. Today he's pitching. He had like a 4-0 shutout going up until the seventh inning. I think they pulled him. That game's just about wrapping up now for the Phillies. Scherzer coming back off the IL finally. He had that shoulder surgery in the offseason, so he's back today. And then Blue Jays prospect, last name is Martinez, one of their top prospects, suspended 80 games.
Is that the Orlevis?
Yes.
Okay, I've heard of him. Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah, so 80 games for him. So we'll see what happens with that. Any Cubs news to bring up?
No. It's been a sad state of affairs still. So, I mean, there's really nothing good to say.
Do you think that they'll add at the deadline? Do you think they'll go after a Pete Alonso type player or not?
You know what? I mean, I don't know. We're gonna have to get hot before that. We're still not, yeah, we're a few games out, but it's not that bad, right? Milwaukee's not really running away
You're
with
only
it.
two out of the wild card.
So, I mean, it just depends on if we can get hot, and not just for 2 weeks. We're gonna have to get hot for a month and a half, month or two.
Well,
But
the deadline's almost. We're already almost in July. Deadline's I think August 1st. So or August, maybe it's August 31st. I don't know. It's in August. I know that, but I mean, time's running out. I mean, if you want to make a jump, maybe he sparks up that lineup, though. I think he's a. Is he a lefty or no?
who are we talking about?
Pete Alonso.
No, he's ready.
Okay.
Um, I like the polar bear too a lot, but yeah, we're gonna have to start winning some games here before that happens. And you know what? I don't know if we need another bat or if we need a couple guys in the bullpen first. Maybe the bullpen.
I mean, you got to be able to score runs.
Yeah, but some of those guys in the lineup are just really cold right now, and those are the guys that we're paying and should be hitting. So I don't know how
Yes,
many more
Swans.
guys. I don't know how many more
I think
guys you can really bring in there and start tinkering with the lineup. We've got a full 3 or 4 guys in the outfield, depending on with Talkman and PCA and all those guys. Um, Morel, we've been trying to get at bats too. Obviously, Bellies. I mean, we've there aren't many positions out there that we could really upgrade. Maybe second, maybe third, depending on who's playing there. And as you mentioned, Dansby, yeah, he's had a rough go for sure.
I saw his stats are very similar to Jason Hayward's after he signed his deal. Like similar
Ooh.
averages, similar pretty much everything across the board.
Well, last year he was good. I don't know what he finished with last year. I don't know if it was 250, 260, 270. The average was not bad, but I thought he had like 20, 25 homers. I mean, he had a really good year last year. This year got off to a cold start, and then I think he was playing through a bit of an injury, and then I think he just went to Craig and said, "Hey, I got to sit out for a couple weeks," and he hasn't really gotten going since then. I think he had a couple hits recently. He hit a homer or two, but yeah, he's had a tough go. Seiya was really good before he got hurt. Um, he was out for like a month and a half, and then when he came back, I don't think he's really fully been rolling. Belly still hasn't really fully gotten going. Hap is a guy who historically is either really hot or really cold. Morel seems to be kind of lightning in a bottle at times. So you have a lot of those similar type guys who, again, none of them have really fully gotten going. So I don't know as far as a bat. I'd love to get another bat in the lineup, but
That's what
where
I
are you
was
going to
saying. I
play him
would
and
try
who are you
to
going to get?
Alonzo.
Alonso. I mean, sure, yeah. I mean, first base, maybe you can upgrade there, but yeah, I mean,
I mean, I mean, realistically, and then you move Morel into the DH spot, keep him there. I think that's where he's been kind of going. You move Bush back to third, and then you slide Alonzo in there. So, um, I think that's one of the situations you need to like get a spark. I mean, that's kind of the whole too, like in the lineup, like or at the deadline. I mean, you're only two out of the wild card, so I mean, it's tough because the Padres are kind of hot. Arizona's been hot recently. I mean, also, it's like you could sign it, you could extend him potentially, and then you have a corner piece to build around. Still, like I think that's the problem. I still look at this lineup and I don't see that star, that top 10 player, top 20 player. Like Bellinger's good, but he's 28. So I mean, age really doesn't affect him there, but you don't have that like star because I wouldn't say Swanson's that top 20 player.
not offensively. Swanson, I think we got. I mean, and he's been a really good offensive
He's
player for
good,
his
like
career,
nothing
but
against him. I think the problem is that you just don't have a star.
I think more of that money was probably defensively, at least for Swanson. Bellinger, I think that we were hoping he was going to be a little bit more of the guy we had last year when he caught fire, and luckily, it hasn't really happened so far this year. But you still got some time. I know, the deadline is approaching, but there's still more than a few weeks to get some of these guys rolling. And, like I said, if that happens, you're mentioning the wild card. I'm still talking about the division. I mean, we saw St. Louis go for a week or two. They got hot and they went from last place, and I think they're technically in second now. So our division is still wide open, and Milwaukee has not run away with anything. And I don't think they're going to because their team isn't that good. I think their team's been playing a little bit better than they should have been. I've said that, I think, every podcast. So
Yeah.
unless anyone else has anything to say about that, I think Milwaukee's going to not be. I mean, if they win 90 games, I'd be surprised. They might get there because the rest of our division isn't that great, but um, I still think that we've got a run in us. We'll see if that happens. And no, look at Cincinnati. They were supposed to take another step this year. They're in last. They're behind Pittsburgh right now.
And
So
I think the problem with Cincinnati too is that their pitching staff just hasn't developed. Like Lodolo's been phenomenal. He's 8-2 with the 2.76 ERA,
that's
but
great.
Hunter Green's 5-2. He's 3.35, and given that he gives up so many home runs, I think that's good. But like Andrew Abbott 6-6, like they don't have that starting pitcher that they need. So like I would love to see like the Sox go like if they were to trade with somebody, trade Crochet, why wouldn't Cincinnati go get a cost efficient guy? It's a small market team, right? I think it's not like New York. So like that would be a great trade partner and move some of these prospects because they have a logjam of prospects on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, they have a lot of them, especially with the middle infielders. I mean, they've got them all over, but yeah, they've got. I mean, one guy who has. They have two guys who haven't even really played all year. They've got my buddy Noelvi Marte, who I'm really high on, and they got Matt McClain, who was supposed to be, I think, the everyday starting shortstop. So you've got your those two are going to be studs when they come up, and you still have Jonathan India's name's been thrown around the last year or two about him getting moved. I like him a lot, but he's also been up for a couple years, and with the influx of all the younger guys they've got, it makes sense to move a guy like that. They've also got other guys that you could move. So yeah, I mean, and the starting pitching, Hunter Green, those aren't bad numbers. I would almost expect him to be a little bit better than that, just because his stuff is great. But yeah,
It's
Abbott, I
it's the
think
home runs. Yeah.
yeah, Abbott, I like him too. 6-6. Yeah, that could be better. But yeah, their pitching definitely was going to be the question for them because you look at them on paper, Spencer Steer is another one we didn't mention who's been pretty solid this year.
He's
Um,
been he might be their all well no, Ellie will be their all-star, but still.
I
Like
didn't even
that's
mention Ellie. Yeah, I mean they've got all these guys, and some of them are you have to move to play other positions that they don't normally play. So yeah, I think you look at them and you look at another team like Baltimore. I mean, are they? You said they brought up that Kierstad for a couple weeks and he didn't even play. So
yeah.
what are they going to do? I mean, they've got a bunch of other guys down there who still haven't come up. So I've been waiting for them to make a big splash. They brought Corbin Burns over, but that's a team where if they really wanted to and they go out and get another legit starting pitcher to go up there with Burns, and you still have Grayson Rodriguez and maybe another guy or two. That's going to be the way for me for Baltimore to try to take down the Yankees because the Yankees look so good.
Yeah, and I was about to say too is that was one of the trade partners too when Dylan Cease was on the block. That that was always like the speculation going back on
Yeah,
Twitter, like the trade rumors, but they don't want to move any of their prospects. And it's
they're
like, okay,
too
well, you have to
picky.
move shit to do it.
Yeah,
Like, if you want to win, do it. Like, people complained for how many years when the Cubs got rid of Gleyber Torres because he had what, one season of hitting 30 home runs for the Yankees? Come on. Like, you guys won a world championship. Be happy with it.
yeah. Certainly has not panned out to the type of player with all the hype that he had around him. But
So
yeah,
much hype. Well, I think it was just because of like the farm system that they had at the time. Like Eloy was part of
and
it.
he
Like
was the
he was
guy
yeah, no, he was the guy. He's the
with
can't miss, future of it, but like,
Yeah.
and that's where you guys had Addison Russell, Javi Baez, Zobrist was still kicking around. That was one of those times. But okay, move them. You won a championship. That's what these teams are afraid to do. I think
Yeah.
is to go all in, and I think the Orioles are going to find that out hard. They lost Bradish. Bradish is done for the year now, which we kind of knew before the season even started. That was a possibility, but I think that's just one of the things that some of these teams are going to like take off is if they go get the pitching. Once again, we talk about the Sox and Orioles. Another trade partner, Crochet. If the Sox move Crochet, it better be to one team, and it better be the Orioles, and we better get like either Jackson Holiday. That's not going to happen. Probably Kerstad, and maybe like Mayo. I'd be happy with those two prospects in return, or getting Cade Povich.
There's certainly a few guys that could be moved. I mean, I think for you guys, if you move Robert, I think that's your guy, and I think there's certainly a few teams that could take him. I mean, Baltimore's got a bunch of young guys, but and they could use a pitcher too. But what if, Baltimore's got the prospects. You guys, though both of your teams have been rumored the last year or two, you guys could get a couple of really solid players. You could have Robert slot in as your everyday center fielder. I don't know if they've got another guy that they want to play center. You could have Robert play right. He's got a big arm, but I think he'd be interesting. I also think I don't know how Seattle's farm system is. I just think Seattle as a team for them right now, they've got the West right now. I don't know how many game lead they have over Houston and Texas, but both of those teams have not been great. Now Texas, obviously, you said they just got Scherzer back today, so we'll see how he does for the rest of the year. But he's making his first start of the year, almost midway through the season. And DeGrom is, I think, supposed to come back, but I think that's second half of the season. So we'll see how Texas does. Houston to this point has not been great. They've gotten a little better, but Seattle, I mean, I mentioned it, I think, at the beginning of the year, especially with their pitching staff. Their staff is up there with the best in all of baseball. You've got a legit chance if they get another big bat, and I know J-Rod plays out there, but if they had J-Rod and your buddy Robert out there in the
It would
outfield,
be sick.
center and right, I mean, I know Seattle has a couple guys in the top 100 with their prospects. I don't know if they'd be willing to move all of those guys, but that's just an interesting team for me, more for Seattle, because for me, I think, the time is now. Texas has got a bit of that World Series hangover. They haven't had Scherzer or DeGrom, so they're probably going to get better, but how much better? And then, like I said, Houston's been this team most of the year that has not been great. So you almost feel like the West could be Seattle's to take if they keep playing.
Yeah, they're up 7 games in that division. So, and that's with, believe it or not, that's with J Rod not playing very well to begin with. He's not like he's batting like I think 260 maybe. And I might be pushing it on that. Let me pull it up real quick. But he's not hitting that many home runs. I know he only has 7 of them, which home runs aren't everything, but still, yeah, he's only batting 264. I mean, Cal Raleigh has been hitting home runs for them. Overall, they're a gritty team is the best way to describe Seattle. They have a good pitching staff. We know that. Um, and I looked at their prospects. So one of the names that I knew just from our dynasty league too is Lazaro Montez. He plays outfield, but he also can play first base. That would be a guy who's tearing the cover off the ball. I'd like to see him a part of the trade, and then Colt Emerson. That would be very bold. I know Seattle wouldn't do it because they have a lot of band-aids going, but they have depth at that position at shortstop with Cole Young, also a top prospect. So they have a couple of guys that they could move for Robert. If that happens, I'll laugh, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean that was more of a fun one, I guess. But
Oh no,
I
no,
you
absolutely.
know
I would love like if we're gonna get it, I would go all out and hopefully he goes on a team that can win. I would love to see these guys win, not just sit here and be miserable. I mean, the Sox are down 9-0 in the second inning, so
Oh Jesus.
it's funny because yesterday, because I put a couple dollars on the Oilers to win, like the last couple games, so I had a decent amount. Put it on the Sox to lose -1.5, and of course they win. I'm like, you bastards, like you fucking bastards. But yeah, today of course 9-0. That's what I expected, but We'll see. We'll see what happens. They have the people to do it, but you need to build around people. Like, can't just keep trading away stars. Go back to what you did 2016, 2017 when you traded away Chris Sale. So,
Yeah, and you know what? As far as just as since we're on the topic of guys that could be traded, what about another bad team like Miami? They've got almost nobody over there, but one guy I love is that Jesus Luzardo.
he
Liked him
just
when he
got
was on
hurt.
Oakland. Now, we're gonna have to see with the injury, right? We're gonna have to see if it's somewhat serious, then maybe this won't work. But that's another guy. I mean, if you're Miami, you let Jeter got out of there because they weren't spending any money. They weren't trying to bring in any real offensive, you know, guys in that lineup. They have no offense over there. But they've got a few arms over there, like they have for a while, and they were able to acquire Luzardo. If I don't know what kind of a year he's having. I know Miami as a team is one of the worst in baseball, but Luzardo's got wicked stuff. If he is healthy, I could see him potentially being moved. Couple of teams. Baltimore's another one, though. I mean, it's like they scream the last couple of years starting pitching. Get a big arm up there. They got Burns. Burns has been great. If they, but like I said, if they get a legit guy to go behind him, and then maybe Grayson is your number three, I
Yeah.
think that could be wild.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, they have to get him to kind of kill the vibe with Jesus Luzardo.
Oh
Uh,
no.
so he's on the IL for the second time now. Because this time is because of a lumbar stress reaction in his back. So he's going to miss 4 to 6 weeks. He's done. So
Oh boy.
uh, he won't get moved. But that's just adding
No.
into and then they just added Braxton Garrett on on the IL. So that adds to the list Sandy Alcantara, who is already out with Tommy John. Yuri Perez will not pitch at all this year. He had just elbow surgery too. So, their team is just falling apart. They don't have much left. I mean, that's just a terrible team too. I mean,
Oh man, you want to talk about terrible? And with those guys who were out, they were already bad. I mean, my God. I mean, if you were a Marlins fan, I don't know how you go to a game.
yeah, I agree. That's why I don't go to Sox games.
Here's another question for you.
Yes.
Since we're on the topic, AL East team that's had some high expectations the last few years, Toronto Blue Jays. What are they gonna do? Are they gonna keep guys like Bo and Vlad and keep rolling with them the next couple of years? Are they gonna sign them? I mean, what you're losing time if you want to move some of these guys. I know.
I think
I don't think
I
Vlad's
think
had a
they
great year, but I think Bo's been pretty solid for the most part. I don't know. I'd have to look at his numbers.
he hasn't been very good either. So to bring them up too is they're just an underwhelming team, like we've kind of expected them to be.
So underwhelming.
But Vlad's batting 277, so he's having a decent year, but he's only hit 8 home runs. And just going back the year over year, after he kind of came on the scene and was like that elite hitter, where he hit that 48 home runs in 2021. He hit 32 the next year in 26. So he's going down in production. Averages dropped as well since then. And I don't know what his contract looks like, but yeah, I'd move him. Where to is like wherever needs a team. Probably it'd be interesting if you put him on like Arizona. Just get wild with it. Throw a random team in the mix, or the Giants too. The Giants are always that team that misses out on the big fish, and that would just like it'd be fun. I don't know. You just look at teams that would like really be useful for like a Vlad Guerrero or Pete Alonso, and I don't think Pete gets traded within the NL. I mean, I have to go back and saying that because I said the Cubs earlier, but I don't see them going to like the Giants. But I mean, who's even on the Giants? They're 11 out of the division.
They don't have. That's another team that tries to do it very analytically, and they get some guys that you're like, that they're rolling out this, and like they try to overachieve with what they've got. And yeah, if you look at that offense, I mean, yeah, I think Jorge Soler is one of the bigger bats in that lineup, and he's not bad. He's had some big years.
He's
I
had a
like
decent
Jorge,
year too.
but I actually no that he's on another team. Yeah, San Fran's lineup. I mean. You'd have to look and see. One guy who was doing well was one of my young guys, that Marco Luciano. Then he had something with the hamstring, and then they sent him back down after that. So didn't love that. But he was hitting like 400 for a week or two.
Yeah. What is his name? Heliot. I don't have the accent to do it. Ramos. He's had like 10 home runs. It's all been like this week. I swear. The
Mm-hmm.
last 2 weeks, that dude's been hot as hell too. Because that's one of the reasons I'm losing in fantasy this week too. Is that he's been hot. Um, you know, the Giants are, I think, are just one of those teams too that could be so much better than they are. But they're kind of like another bottom feeder in that division. The wild card, yeah, they're not really a part of that, so that wouldn't be a good landing spot for them. But it's weird because there's so many teams because they added that extra wild card spot that are still alive. So it'll be
Yeah.
interesting. Pirates, Diamondbacks. I mean, the three teams that have it are the Braves. They're up 4.5 games. The Cardinals, and then the Padres.
Yeah, I mean, you look at some of these teams, and my other thing is there going to be an AL Central team that makes a move? Not necessarily you guys, but Cleveland, Kansas City, or Minnesota. All three of those teams are all solid right now. Cleveland, I think, has been obviously a bit of a surprise with how good they've been. Kansas City took a big jump, and Minnesota had that week or two where they were really hot, and now they're kind of back in the mix. So, are any of those teams going to maybe make a move to try to push themselves over the hump? Because I could see almost any of those teams. Cleveland looks like they're the best team, but Kansas City has been neck and neck with them. They've been winning a lot. And Minnesota, I picked to win the division just because I felt like if Buxton and Correa and some other guys could stay healthy, which they can't fucking do that. That's another
Royce
one.
Lewis, though. Royce Lewis, he's been hot. Go
Yeah,
look at his last 10 days. Like, I mean, he's been insane.
he's a Maserati. Excuse me, he's a Ferrari, not a Maserati. That's
Oh yeah,
made
I
by
was gonna
Chrysler
say.
now.
I was gonna say, give him a little
Yeah,
bit more credit than
no,
that.
no, Maseratis
I
are.
think they said like his like projected like home run total if he played 162 would be like in the 50s. Which good for him. I mean, you don't root for injuries, and I know he's within the division, but
He's a stud,
uh,
but he's
he's
just got to stay on the field.
371, 10 home runs, and 14 RBIs, and he's only played in 17 games this year.
It's pretty good.
Yeah,
pretty good.
That's great.
To quote Larry David, that's pretty good.
Yeah, but yeah, he's been one of those guys that just seems to always mash the ball. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. No trade, nothing really going on for the trade deadline yet because we are still got some time. But some of these teams will be coming up hot, so we'll see. Any closing arguments for the MLB?
Cubs got to get going. Jedley, that's what I call Jed Hoyer. Jedley, Jedley, we got to get it going. You and Craigers got to figure it out.
Yeah, add to the bullpen like I've been saying since the off season, and then go get a hitter. Get some fresh blood in that lineup because what they're doing is not working.
It's not working.
Nope. We'll see. We'll see what the Sox end up moving to if they do. So, I should bring up a positive note because that's what we're going to start doing on this. We're going to talk about one positive note for the White Sox. Our boy Drew Thorpe yesterday did really well. He got the win, got his first career win against Detroit, and he had the stat line of 6 innings. So that's always a good start, right? Whenever you can go 6.
Great.
6 innings, 2 hits, 5 strikeouts, 4 walks. Walks are a little bit of a problem there for him, but gave up no runs.
How about that? 6 innings. And you know what? Like I said, I don't know if I've said this, but that's what you guys really. You've already got Crochet. If Thorpe's going to be this guy, you got to rebuild with some solid young starting pitching. And if those two are you're 1 and 2 going into next year, you hope you can get something from one of those other couple guys you've had up. And then you've talked about your Double-A roster.
I was just about to touch on it too. Yep.
Ad nauseum.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll see. Obviously, that's a Double-A, so you probably have another year or two with some of those kids, maybe more. I don't know.
Because Double-A is typically when you think. I don't know if you knew this, but like Double-A is the more competitive league. Like people think just like Triple-A, but Triple-A is actually where you go to die, like or you go on a rehab assignment. That's where like a lot of the 4A players go to play. But going into the stat lines for all these pitchers that I keep bringing up from Double A, Noah Schultz, he was one of our top
I
draft
know him.
picks a couple
Yep.
years ago. 19 innings pitched, 23 Ks, one walk, 183 ERA, and a WHIP of .71. He's a massive human being too.
He's a lefty too, right?
Yep, left-handed
Yeah.
pitcher. Yep.
Yep.
Next one, Kai Bush. Not as high of a prospect, but still 70 innings pitched, 70 strikeouts, 178 ERA, and a .98 WHIP.
Mm.
Mason Adams, don't know who this kid is. Hand up. 75 innings, 76 Ks, 2.15 ERA. Yurio Iriate, we got him
Okay.
from
Yep.
Golden Sea Steel. A
Mhm.
little bit higher of an ERA with a 4.31, but 71 innings pitched, 77 Ks, 31 walks, and a 1.30 WHIP. Okay. Still take it. And then Jake Eater, who we traded Jake
I
Burger
like
for
Eater.
last year. 4.75 ERA, 66 innings pitched, 79 strikeouts, though, and a 1.48 ERA. That's a lot of a talent, top prospect talent that could make a name for themselves, and it's kind of fun to watch because it's all we have right now. But there is some hope. There is a little bit of hope. I don't have anything because Jerry will never pay to build around a team. But you have Cannon. He's come up and looked good outside of today. Been solid, and then with Crochet having his elite year, and then you also have Thorpe. So got some room for growth.
Yeah, and then three of those guys had excellent ERAs down there at Double A, and I've got a little bit invested in Jake Eater. I know
Yeah.
I think he's still pretty young. Correct me if I'm wrong. He might be another lefty, and he might be a big guy too.
Yeah, that's another thing that they always talk about on the pregame is how tall they are, and or if I see it on Twitter, they take a group photo, one of their taller guys who's 6'5" looks short. He looks like he's the shortest one because we have 6'7", 6'8". They're just massive human beings.
Yeah.
But I hope that they all won't pan out because we did this before when we had Alec Hansen and all these other young pitchers that the Sox had that looked good in Double A, never panned out, and then you never even hear from them again. So we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening.
As of right now, it looks solid though. It looks promising for you.
Yeah, like I said, one positive note from the Sox.
Positive note. That was good. Positive note of the pod. Drew Thorpe. I wrote that down.
Good deal. All right. Any closing comments?
Closing comments or concerns? Well, like I said, Jedley, Craigers, get your ass in the gear. Let's go.
All right. And with that being said, we'll see you next time. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, how did we close it last week?
I think we just did the old-fashioned one. You got something new?
No, because I think last week, wasn't there something from a movie or there was something you said and I said it last week?
Oh, yeah. We were talking about Game of Thrones because we have Game of Thrones, so.
What was it? Watch it burn or everything burns? Or
burn them all.
Okay.
We're not doing that.
Burn them all.
We're not doing that. That being said, we'll end it there.